Namaste nerds, it's Navinad the Budget Pub Stomper, and today we're going to be talking about something that I truly think is a meta buster in the budget competitive space. This is Kaervek the Punisher, or Kaervek the Budget Punisher, and it really is going to be a punishing deck. Now I know this isn't the latest, greatest, hottest thing. This is one for the true believers. But this is a control deck. If you're familiar with the budget competitive sphere, or if you've played in this space, the meta is virtually all creature combos and or creature reliant strategies. So like every good deck in the format, maybe all the decks, virtually all the decks in the format are either going to be creature based, winning with creature combos, and or using a commander that is a creature that is a linchpin for the entire strategy. And that gives us the opportunity to play decks that are really focused on creature removal as really oppressive control decks. The reason I thought about, I know this isn't the newest hottest thing, but actually looking at the newest hottest thing, this guy here is what brought me back to Kaervek. Silverquill depends upon us playing a bunch of cards we wouldn't really want to otherwise play to provide us material to sacrifice to get it to happen, and it's 4 mana. And I think you just don't have the same coherent strategy as far as a win condition or win conditions are concerned. I'm not going to do Silverquill before I bring you Kaervek the Punisher. It's been living rent-free in my mind ever since I saw it spoiled. Kaervek the Punisher says, if you commit a crime, exile up to 1 target black card in your graveyard and copy it. You may cast this copy. If you do, you lose 2 life. Now, it's super trivial to commit crimes. If you're playing a control, like an attrition grindy type strategy, you are committing crimes virtually by definition. Like that's what it means to be a control deck, is a deck that commits crimes, basically. You're committing a crime anytime you target anything your opponent controls, or you target your opponent or any of their zones. You target their graveyard, target their creatures, target their hands, target their spells on the stack. All of the things that, well, like this guy wants to do. If we're targeting their hand with hand disruption, it's going to proc Kaervek, which is going to allow us to chain into more and more hand disruption or more and more creature spells. Or we can use a creature spell to proc the commander that will allow us to reuse a tutor. And in the context of this deck, when he's able to play out of the graveyard, that allows us to use entomb effects as actual tutors. We can use Buried Alive, for instance, to tutor up any 3 creatures that we want, and then we can easily get access to those creatures and cast them out of our graveyard. But we're also going to use Buried Alive as our main win condition, and in this deck, Buried Alive does become a 1-card win condition with your commander, so long as you can proc the commander, which is trivial. So if we have a Buried Alive, I guess there's 2 Buried Alive things that we're going to talk about. One is going to be the Commander Agnostic plan, and we'll talk about that. The Commander Agnostic Buried Alive line is going to look like this. We're going to cast Buried Alive. We're going to search our library for 3 creatures. It's going to be Asmodeus, Necrotic Ooze, Scourge Familiar. We are going to cast any of our Reanimate spells, including but not limited to Reanimate itself for 1 black mana. Or we can use Persist, or we can use Victimize, which has extra utility in the deck because there will be times when we want to use the Victimize to get 2 creature cards into play, especially if we're not able to keep our commander in play. More on that later. But the primary win con is going to be Buried Alive for these 3 creatures, and then we're going to either, well, if we don't have the commander in play, we're going to reanimate the Necrotic Ooze. Or if we have Necrotic Ooze in our hand, we can cast a Buried Alive, and we can put like Asmodeus, Scourge Familiar, and Marrow Gnar. Just a way to utilize our commander if this first win attempt doesn't pan out. This will proc our commander, or we can get more mana if we need, or another tutor, whatever we feel like we might need moving forward if our plan doesn't work out. But the main win line is Buried Alive, get Asmodeus and Scourge Familiar in the graveyard, and Necrotic Ooze in play through whatever means makes sense given your situation. If that is the case, that you've got Necrotic Ooze in play, Ooze has all the activated abilities of all the creatures in all graveyards. That includes the activated ability of Asmodeus, but it doesn't give you its limitations or downsides, just the activated ability, just black, 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 draw 7 cards. Now that is a draw engine, an attrition engine, unlike anything ever well, I was going to say printed, but they did print Grizzlebrand. It's not allowed in our format. If we just had the ability of black, 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 draw 7 cards, that would be busted enough, but we're going to have Scourge Familiar in the graveyard also, which means our Necrotic Ooze will have Scourge Familiar's ability, discard a card to add a black mana, and Asmodeus' ability of black, 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 draw 7 cards, which means, hopefully you can see where this is going. If not, it's simple to explain. We will discard 3 cards, or pay 3 mana, or pay 2 mana and discard a card, or discard 2 cards and play it. We will come up with 3 black mana. We will draw 7 cards. We will discard 3 of those cards to make 3 black mana with our Scourge Familiar, which just says discard a card, add a black. And then, since we've got 3 black mana and our Necrotic Ooze has the ability of Asmodeus, we will use the 3 black mana to draw 7 cards. We will discard 3 of those cards to add 3 black mana to draw 7 cards, and discard 3 and draw 7, and discard 3 and draw 7, and discard 3 and draw 7, and that will allow us to draw our entire deck, basically, and add a tremendous amount of mana to our mana pool. And we've included Elixir of Immortality, which will allow us to loop our entire deck over and over and over. So Elixir of Immortality just allows us to shuffle everything back, including the Elixir, back into our library, and then just start doing it again. Now you will have to remember to keep away, like while you're going through this combo, you'll want to maybe, not necessarily, but a way to do it, since you've already got Necrotic Ooze in play, just cast your Scourge Familiar, reanimate your Scourge Familiar, get this guy in play also. That way every time you go through this loop, because remember your Elixir of Immortality is shuffling your graveyard back into your deck, so whatever's in your graveyard will no longer be in your graveyard. So just make sure you hold on to 1 card that will put Asmodeus back in your graveyard. So you're going to get the Scourge Familiar in play with the Necrotic Ooze when you actually start the loop up. So in case I'm being clear as mud, to activate the combo, to get it to work, you just need the Necrotic Ooze in play, Asmodeus in the graveyard, Scourge Familiar in the graveyard. And it's going to, in practice, look something like this. You're going to draw most of your deck, discard all of your cards, most of your cards, have a tremendous amount of mana floating, and then you're going to put some number of Asmodeus activations on the stack. So you're going to be able to draw like 21 cards. But in response to that, you will crack the Elixir of Immortality, you will shuffle all this stuff back into your deck, and then you'll have the triggers on the stack, and you'll draw 21 cards. Just make sure you have, at that point, a way to put Asmodeus back in the graveyard. Ideally, your Scourge Familiar will be in play, and then even if you're unfortunate enough to draw your Asmodeus, you can just discard it with the Scourge Familiar. Now it's back in the graveyard where it can do no harm and where your Necrotic Ooze can still utilize its ability, and you'll just be going back through the loop, Once you've got, 50 mana floating, you've drawn basically your entire deck, you've got all the cards you want in your hand, you've got all the cards you want to be in the graveyard, there's no way your opponents can beat you in that stage. You can literally burn them out by casting a Sign in Blood, which will deal 2 damage to them. And then first you can destroy everything that they love, everything that they hold dear. You can discard every card that they've got in their hands. So yeah, you discard all their cards, destroy all their permanents. Then you can Sign in Blood them to death. We can just find our Professor Onyx and our Chain of Smog. And if you're not familiar with the combo, Professor Onyx does have some useful abilities. You can +1, lose 1 life, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 of them in your hand, the rest in your graveyard. That becomes a value engine if you have Kaervek in play. But the primary use of the card in this deck is Magecraft. When you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So if we pair that up with Chain of Smog, we can target ourselves with the Chain of Smog. It says target player discards 2 cards, and then they can copy the spell. So you cast it on yourself, and that procs the Professor Onyx, and that drains your opponents, and then you copy the Chain of Smog, targeting yourself again and again and again, and you do that over and over until your opponents are all dead. Now, usually one of the risks of using this combo in a deck is that if somebody counterspells the last, once you're hellbent, they counterspell the next copy, then you just blew yourself out, which is pretty terrible. You're pretty out of the game at that point. But with Kaervek, much less so, because you can still use the cards that are in your graveyard as an extension of your hand with Kaervek. Especially if you have one of the... Now, I didn't go crazy with these effects. So let me pause on that. You get that, right? So if we get blown out, usually this is the reason I don't like these combos. If you get blown out, you're hellbent, you have no cards in hand, and somebody counters the last copy, you're sort of out of the game. But if Kaervek is in your command zone, you're not out of the game, because all the cards that you just discarded, you'll be able to use with your Kaervek. You won't be able to use each one twice, which is, well, that's kind of a pain in the ass, but you can use them just as a normal hand. Yeah, and so especially if you have one of these like marrow and bone gnar type effects that allows you to commit a crime over and over. I didn't go crazy with these effects. I tried to use predominantly ones that are actually useful cards. I thought this one was a little bit too good to not include. It's just 1 black mana, and you can tap it to remove a card in an opponent's graveyard from the game. That commits a crime, that procs your commander, but it also is just kind of a nice little stacks piece for a lot of the decks in the format. I've also seen people using Glasses of Urza in CDH, which is such a political environment. This can be an actual useful card. I don't know if it's useful enough to take up a card slot or a draw step, but in this deck, it certainly doesn't hurt you to know what cards your opponents have in their hands, but also you can proc your commander for free. It's another free way to proc your commander over and over, like every turn. So you can proc your commander, and so if you just got blown out and you pitched a bunch of, like say you pitched a removal spell and a tutor and a duress. That was your hand. You had duress, a removal spell, and a tutor in your hand. And you did the Magecraft combo, and then somebody blows you out with a counter spell. But you have your glasses in play. You can tap the glasses, committing a crime, and then you can cast your removal spell to burn a creature out of the game, or out of play. And then that will proc your commander, so you can cast your duress, and then you can snatch a card from somebody's hand, and that will proc your commander, so you can use the tutor and then find the piece that's going to get you right back into the game. Also, your Chain of Smog kind of layers pretty well in the deck, because sometimes you're going to have cards that you drew that you didn't want to draw, or that you actively want in the graveyard. Maybe you've got your Necrotic Ooze in your hand and you draw into your Asmodeus. Well, if you hit yourself with the Chain of Smog, you can discard the Asmodeus and some creature or some spell that you want to cast out of the graveyard, or at least you can cast out of the graveyard, so you don't get hurt as bad. But you also get to use the card to actively put the cards into your graveyard that you literally want to be in your graveyard, like Asmodeus. Then you cast your Necrotic Ooze, and at least you have this nasty draw engine in play now, where you pay 3 black mana to draw 7 cards, which is fucking gnarly, right? But there's more shit to do with it than that. If you can cast the same tutor spell twice, you've got the ability to double tutor by means of Kaervek the Punisher. You can find your Asmodeus and your Necrotic Ooze, or if you have one of these pieces already in your hand, you can find the other, and then you can use the discard spell to target yourself, discard the pieces you want in the graveyard, and still chain that back to one of your opponents. And maybe they'll send it to another opponent. They probably won't send it back to you, knowing that you can take full advantage of the cards in your graveyard. So you can hit yourself with the Chain of Smog and put your Asmodeus into the graveyard, along with your Scourge Familiar, right? But then you can still copy that and hit one of your opponents, and then they have to discard 2 cards, and they don't want to discard 2 cards, which will also commit a crime, which will allow you to cast one of the things out of your graveyard. See where we're going here? Pretty fucking nasty. There are also there's at least one big one that I think is worth spending time discussing that relies on us putting it into our graveyard. A nasty spell in very few contexts, but when Profane Tutor is busted in a deck, it is fucking busted in a deck. And guys, Profane Tutor is busted in this deck. If you cast it for suspend, it's not that bad. If you can do that early, set up a win on a specific turn, it's just suspend 2, and it's only 2 mana. Not the end of the world if you can do it on turn 1, 2, 3. We're planning on going late game. But if you can arrange for this to be in the graveyard, so say you've got Asmodeus in hand and Profane Tutor in hand, and you have Chain of Smog. Chain of Smog is far from a dead card in this deck, is the main thing I'm trying to drive home. But you can hit yourself with the fucking discard spell, the Chain of Smog. You can discard your Profane Tutor and your Asmodeus. Now, with Profane Tutor in the bin, you can copy the Chain of Smog to target an opponent, which is committing a crime, which will allow you to cast your Profane Tutor from your graveyard. Well, what's its cast cost from your graveyard? It doesn't have one. It's 0. So you can cast it free from your graveyard. So it's a free tutor, as long as you can arrange for it to be in your graveyard. And we have loads of ways to arrange for things to get into our graveyards. We can use Final Parting and Ransack the Lab and tons of other things. Lively Dirge, Collective Brutality, Chain of Smog. I think we can Cabal Therapist ourselves. Auric Lore Mage can drop it into the graveyard. Tons of ways. Plenty of ways. You'll be able to do it. So yeah, Chain of Smog is a very good piece in this deck this combo is a very good combo in the deck because it is an efficient way to win the game from our normal end state of Buried Alive and get a Necrotic Ooze in play. But the normally dead cards are not dead, and the Professor Onyx functions as a value engine when you combine it with our commander, and the Professor Onyx it doesn't commit a crime. Okay, so it doesn't do that, but it's what the hell happened to my mouse? Sorry guys. Essentially what I'm trying to say is the otherwise dead card of Chain of Smog is not a dead card in this deck. It actually does useful things. Professor Onyx is usually not the best card, but in our deck it's a lot better. And going Hellbent in this deck is not the blowout that it is in most other decks. Also, if you just have a Professor Onyx in play, this can be a win condition. Even if you're, I don't know, maybe you don't want to use Sign in Blood, you're worried about drawing your opponents a bunch of cards, you can just burn everybody out of the game. When you're looping through your entire deck, you can play your Professor Onyx, and then while you're looping through your deck and you're casting spells and looping and casting and looping and casting, Professor Onyx will burn everybody to death. So it's just like the perfect layered combo soup that you come to expect from my insane machinations. And now I just want to talk about some notable inclusions. Like basically we're playing a bunch of card draw spells and a bunch of rituals that are going to allow us to chain through our deck, and we're going to be able to chain removal spells and interaction. We're going to be able to chain spells together with our rituals, with our card draw, to go the fuck off in big bursty turns. But a card like Bubbling Muck in a deck with 30 lands or 30 actual swamps is pretty nasty, right? If you have a few lands in play, Bubbling Muck is crazy. If you have like, I don't know, 3 swamps in play and maybe some other black mana, let's say we've got a Cabal Pit, which by the way, Cabal Pit can commit a crime. And this guy here can mill cards into our library and give us some card draw. But back to the matter at hand. If we have, say, 3 swamps and a Cabal Pit, we can tap the Cabal Pit to cast our Bubbling Muck. Now all of our 3 swamps tap for additional mana. If we have one of our ways to, like our Marrow Gnar, if we tap that, commit a crime, we can then cast the Bubbling Muck out of our graveyard again, and now all of our swamps tap for triple mana. And so if it looks like some of these lines are going to require a lot of mana, you're not wrong, but when you can cast the same Bubbling Muck twice and chain that into some kind of a spell that will target a creature and kill it, and then you can cast a Dark Ritual and then cast it again out of your graveyard, and you're Sign in Blood and then double Sign in Blood and then ransack the lab, and then you're going to be able to sort of storm off in the mid to late game, and your opponents are not going to be able to keep anything in play. You've got so many removal spells that just even if you didn't have a commander that allowed you to reuse them over and over, would still just be very devastating and hard for your opponents to play around. But some of these, like this one's nasty. Malicious Affliction, when you cast it, if a creature died this turn, you may copy Malicious Affliction. So then you can cast it and copy it, and then recast it and recopy it. Right? So this one spell, in the context of our deck, for black can very easily take out 4 creatures. That's almost a board wipe in most competitive games, right? And it's black and it's 40 cents. So yeah, the deck is oppressive. If you're looking at the 2 mana spells and you're thinking, well, this is definitely going to be bottlenecked on mana, you're not wrong. But again, we can very easily arrange for creatures to get into our graveyard, and sometimes exactly the creatures we want. And we can not only reanimate them with a host of reanimation spells that we can reuse multiple times, but we also have ones that will reanimate multiple creatures. So we have things like value creatures like Crick that we can tutor into the graveyard and then cast out of the graveyard with our commander, or we can put it into the graveyard with some kind of entomb effect, and then we can play it out of the graveyard even without our commander with any of our reanimation effects, and we can do that without having to worry that it's going to stop us from using that reanimation spell to combo off and win the game later. So some of these removal spells that have like black, your Crick can help you to cast that or those very easily. But also, we spent a pretty big chunk of the budget on Jet Medallion, which I just think is the best. This is the best piece we could be playing for this specific deck for ramp. This is our best ramp option. It's 11. It's 11% of the budget. But if you look at all these Bitter Triumph, which also is a way to discard any creature that we want in the graveyard, we can use this if it gets stuck in our hand or we just want it in the graveyard. Or any of these Curtains Call. And this is another one. If you copy this, it's another destroy 2 creatures, and then if you get to cast another copy of it, you just destroyed 4 creatures. You get the idea. We've got all the good ones. We're able to chain them together. We can reduce their cast cost. We can chain rituals and reuse rituals. And we have Crick to fill in the gaps for black mana, and tons of ways to play it out of the graveyard, including just our commander, which I don't think anybody thinks of this as a kind of a reanimation commander, but it certainly can be that. Other than that, we've got draw engines, we've got tutors, we've got the kind of traditional suite of interaction. We had a budget for Imp's Mischief, which is really good interaction for an attrition-based deck, for any budget deck, but it's starting to get away from budget a little bit at $5.30, but we have an all-swamp mana base, so we could splurge a couple of times and get those couple of pieces that really set the deck off. And Imp's Mischief is one that I think if you've got the budget for it, should just be in your deck. Is there anything else that I think we really ought to be discussing? I think the rest of it's value engines, mana engines, card draw, removal, interaction, and ramp. Yeah, that's pretty well the deck, guys. So hopefully you've enjoyed this exciting edition of Whose Line Is It Anyway? Until next time, give this deck a shot. If you don't want to play like a turbo deck, if you're tired of losing to turbo decks, if you're getting frog stomped by mono green like Selvala, Marwyn, or if you're in a meta where, I don't know, the decks are all turbo, but they're all creature based, like Marwyn or Selvala is going to have a really hard time against Kaervek. First of all, because we play all the creature removal, and secondly, because we can reuse it with Kaervek. But also, your guys like Ral, that's not a creature-based deck, will not be able to keep a Ral in play because you have all this 1-mana creature removal that will just take out a Ral, Ulcerate, Vendetta, Tragic Slip, so on. We can kill the Ral the first time, and then once the Ral comes down the second time, we're going to have our commander or more removal, probably both. So yeah, this is going to give you a way to attack the meta in a different axis and take cards that are ordinarily, I would say, slept on, like Duress and Inquisition of Kozilek, but break them, like actually legitimately break them. Fatal Push is another one that's just broken in this deck. We've got a couple of ways to protect our own guy, but Feign Death also can commit a crime if you just need to proc your commander. Or even if you just find the Urza player and they tutored, and then you cast an Inquisition of Kozilek on them, look at their hand and get rid of a combo piece or an interaction piece, or if they counterspell it, they just used a piece of interaction, and then you commit a crime and you recast it and you get the piece that you wanted to get anyway that they were so damn bent on protecting. You see the vision? Also, I think we're a pretty good deck for Splinter's Technique and things like it. I made sure like we're using guys like Cabal Therapist, which is just a good decent value creature, but also will allow us to proc our commander. Remember, the spells like Duress and Inquisition also will proc the commander. So they not only are better when you can use them in doubles, but they're better just naturally on their own than I think people give them credit for. They can make sure that we're clear to go off, so they can act as kind of like a silence effect in a way, like silence at home. But it's a silence, well, it's a hand disruption effect that we can reuse, and in doing so, we'll proc and then reproc our commander. And we've got things like Glasses of Urza that will allow us to check the people's hands, and we'll know exactly who we want to hit and who we don't want to hit. But what was I talking about? Cabal Therapist, same idea, right? But it also has Menace. And so we've got like Cabal Therapist has Menace. Darkstar Augur has Flying. Dauthi Voidwalker is just nasty, and obviously it should be obvious why this is so good in the deck. It's a stacks piece, it's a value piece, we can reuse it. We can play it, it goes to our graveyard, we can cast it again, right? Double using this guy's nasty, but it has Shadow. Grim Servant has Menace, good piece, slept on, but also has Menace. Servant of the Stinger, if we can reuse this guy, he becomes very broken, has Death Touch. These are all kind of forms like quasi-evasion, I would say. So that makes it just a very good Splinter's Technique deck. Basically almost going to be a demonic tutor in the deck. Like sometimes you'll have to return something to your hand that maybe you don't exactly want to return to hand, but sometimes you'll want to return a thing to hand. Like you can return your actual Darkstar Augur to hand and then recast it and offspring it again. Or you can return your Grim Servant, which has Menace, to your hand, redeploy it, tutor again. So yeah, that's the deck tech, guys. I think that's about all the things. Yeah, like and subscribe. Check us out in the Discord. Go to the Stomping Grounds. We're starting to well, we haven't had a lot of pickup games for them lately, but people in the Discord are starting to get antsy again, and we're really talking about starting to do more along the lines of pickup games, and this whole tournament thing keeps coming up. We need more people in there, I think, to actually book a tournament, so get in there. Never been a better time to ask questions. You'll have somebody probably that will work one-on-one with you, or you'll get like ganged up on by 6 pub stompers that want to help you get better. Until next time, guys, word to your mothers, and namaste, bitches.